You don't really know much about Halloween. You thought no further than the strange custom of having your children wear masks and go out begging for candy. Halloween. The festival of Samhain. The last great one took place 3,000 years ago when the hills ran red with the blood of animals and children. In the end, we don't decide these things, you know. The planets do. They're in alignment, and it's time again. The world's going to change tonight, Doctor. I'm glad you'll be able to watch it. And happy Halloween.
Welcome back, everyone, to Master of the Universe podcast. Joey Cage here with Christopher MuthaFukka2ThaMaxxx. Jay, how's it going, man? How you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
So, dude, we're on our third film. Well, we did the first one a while back, but we're on our third film of the Halloween series. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, released in 1982, directed and written by Tommy Lee Wallace. On a budget of $2.5, made $14 million, so not too bad. So, dude, before we get into Tommy Lee and, you know, all that shit, what did you know about Halloween 3, Season of the Witch going into it? I think this was your first time viewing, of course, right?
Yeah, going into it, I knew absolutely jack and shit, and Jack left town. But, you know, the thing, it was just, I was going to give it a try. I knew you had told me months ago that it was not the Michael Myers story and narrative and slashing and all that. So you told me it was a very different story. So, you know, I was curious. I wanted to see kind of where it went. There I go again. I wanted to see what they do with it and what the story is and who the characters are and everything. So,
well, you never want to see a movie for any of those reasons. What are you talking about?
You want to see them just sit there and do nothing at all with their hands in their lap. Okay.
But this is actually one where you say, yeah, you actually do want to see where it's going to be. Not that you don't want to see it with a movie like that, but first of all, so they're making a movie about without Michael Myers. What's it going to be like? And then you start seeing like this whole plot, you know, kind of being thrown out before you. At least for me, I was like, yeah, I kind of did want to see where what's going on here. So, I mean, what were your thoughts, you know, from general thoughts on the movie so far? I mean, when you were watching it, your experience, dude.
Well, first of all, let me throw in a little quick factoid here. This movie was released in theaters the day before I was born. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah, no shit, right?
Yeah, October 22nd, 1982.
It's funny because I was just looking at the date. I was like, October 22nd. I was like, oh, it's like about a week and a half before Halloween, or a couple of days, 9 days, whatever it is, before Halloween. But yeah, exactly. You're the 23rd of 82. So you're like that Season of the Witch baby, dude. So it all makes sense.
I am. But and that being said, when I looked at the cover of the movie on Amazon Prime, whatever it is, I bought it on, and I was looking at it, and I see these witches like with trick or treating bags and stuff, and I'm like, this must be about female teenage witches or whatever doing witchcraft and fucking with people. Like that's what I'm thinking it is. And man, it was a very different story.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too, is that when you hear Season of the Witch, yeah, what you expect there, at least for me, you're like, oh, like I remember actually seeing this, not seeing the movie, but actually I didn't see it till way later. Like I think I saw the film, like 2014-ish or something. I think someone did a review about it, and I was kind of like, well, that sounds pretty interesting. You hear the story, and everyone talks about Tom motherfucking Atkins, dude, and I love Tom Atkins. We'll do quite a few movies with him. He comes on a lot of Carpenter shit, but I remember going to the video store and always seeing this one, and I really liked the one cover, like you said, where you see the kids like silhouettes, and you see like that skeleton-looking, pumpkin-looking thing in the sky. And it just looks like, wow, that looks pretty crazy, Season of the Witch. Like, what the fuck would this be about? And when you watch the movie, I could see how people were disappointed. I love the film, by the way. But I could definitely see how people would be disappointed with, number one, you're expecting Michael Myers, because especially in 82, people, you can't just, you see a trailer, it doesn't tell you much, but you see how you hear the name Halloween, you're expecting Michael Myers to be there. And then with, like, Season of the Witch, you're like, oh, it might be a witch, and there's, like, none of the two. So when you're watching it, like, what do you, like, as the film's going along, I know you said I think you watched it twice or whatever, like the first time you watched it and then the second time, but the first time, I mean, I would assume you were like really surprised and waiting for something.
It's yeah, exactly. It's the kind of thing like if you go into it with the preconceived notions that you have from the prior two, I mean, you're going to be sitting there waiting for something like to really grab you. Now, again, I want to preface this. This is I know we joked everything on the chat, but this actually is a good movie. Even the first time I saw it, I said that. I was like, this is a good movie. It's just, it left me waiting for something like to really explode and grab me. So it wasn't like, it's kind of like, it's a movie of a corporate crime criminal CEO, rich guy at the top. And he's got this basically entity that does something seemingly innocent and nice, like kids' toys and Halloween mask stuff. Mm-hmm. But really, there's a nefarious intention underlying all that to what he's doing. And it's the same thing, like if you take Beverly Hills Cop as an example, if I want to, not that Beverly Hills Cop obviously isn't a horror movie, but it's a movie where you have this fucking corporate rich businessman in Beverly Hills. And he seems like a nice guy. He donates money to the art gallery. He's giving people, up-and-coming college students jobs. He's doing all these nice things, but really, he's having people killed in apartment hallways. He's fucking trading drugs, doing all this shit. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that same dynamic here. It's just Beverly Hills Cop grabs you, 20 minutes at a time, and like it has you, and I mean, there's humor and all kinds of stuff, and this one, like, you're sitting there because you have these preconceived notions from the first two. You're like, okay. Now, that's my mindset the first time I watched it. The second time I watched it, it wasn't at the end of a long work week. It wasn't at the end of it wasn't like 5 days of me not eating carbs and being grouchy about it. It wasn't fucking like having these preconceived notions that didn't happen. It was just, I knew it's like, okay, I'm in a better mind frame. It's a whole new script. It's a whole new movie. Take it for what it is. And I didn't hate it the first time, but I liked it more and appreciated more the second time.
When I watch it, like, I really, like, it's, I guess like, you gotta explain, like, Beverly Hills Cop. For me, like, it was funny because I was watching skipping ahead, the end of it where the Colonel Cochran's giving him, like, why he's doing everything. And I don't know why, but I was like, of course, Tom Atkins is tied up and everything. And I was like, this reminds me of a James Bond movie, where like there's this big old plan and they're investigating why they're doing it. And there's the big bad heel as an old man rather than like an actual horror movie. Like, of course, the horror of like a James Bond, whatever, nuclear thing or whatever the fuck's going on. But like, it's all because of one man doing something typically or an organization. So I was like kind of like laughing. I was like, this movie's like a James Bond film, which I appreciated that it was like a good film. But it was just kind of like, well, don't call it like everyone says, don't call it Halloween 3, because if it was just called like Season of the Witch, it would have been like, this was a cool movie because you have no, connection to Michael Myers. And not that it's not a good movie, like I love the fucking movie, but yeah, it should have been called something else because it's like, what about it? I mean, it is, horror, but it's not like a slasher or anything like that. At least to me, it's got some badass parts, but yeah, I can definitely, like, if you're not expecting it, if you're not already seen it, like, if you're not like a true horror movie kind of person, like the way I am, like I love all kinds of movies, especially horror. But the person that's just like, oh, I love horror movies, I love Michael Myers and all that shit, Halloween, they're gonna see this and be like pissed off because it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's not that you go to see Halloween to see Michael Myers and all that shit. So people will be immediately turned off because there's not Michael Myers. So
but and it's. You see, when you let go of your preconceived notions and you just sit down and watch it and don't expect things and you just let it play out, like you say, it is a good movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. So let's go ahead and get into this bad boy. So the film starts out, dude, and we see Harry Grimbridge, who is Ellie's father, who we meet in a little bit. But he's being chased along the road, and like he goes into some gas station. The guy takes him to the hospital there, where we meet Mr. Overass Tom Atkins. And can I just say, dude, that motherfucker, like, he's the only. Well, I think Ellie's pretty fine, but like, I guess you have to be in the certain mood or mindset, or like really like be into like this kind of character to like enjoy the movie, because it's like I just was fucking laughing the whole time. Or not even laughing, but like enjoying him on screen, because you have a middle-aged man with this young chick, and he's like just like being James Bond basically, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, he is. He's a man of mystery trying to unsolve mysteries and fight the evil and everything. That's very. I didn't think of it that way, but that's very true. It's a lot like a James Bond movie in that regard when you look at the dynamic at play. And the villain in this movie is a lot like the kind of guy who would be a villain in a James Bond movie. He's this, affluent, wealthy, charming, well-to-do guy, but he's doing nefarious things that the public isn't seeing outright. Now, I love his fucking thug agent at the beginning when he goes to that gas station and mechanic shop, whatever, that the thin black dude is in charge of.
Yeah.
And fucking, did you see Review Bra's dad fucking grab hands on fucking Mr. Grimbridge?
Review Bra's dad. Is that who he looked like? I didn't really pay attention to the guy, but I was like looking at him and I was just like, because we see like a few of those guys in the film, but and
they all look different. One of them's blonde. One of them looks like another way. I mean, they all look kind of different, but they're all fucking. We'll find out. I won't spoil it. We'll find out what they are later. But yeah, that first one, I was waiting for him to talk to me about food reviews.
Yeah, well, no, we can spoil it, man. We're talking about it. So, I mean, that's what's good about just kind of freestyling, is that you can kind of reference. You're not just waiting till the end for the big pop. But I mean, when you're watching this for the first time, are you like, what the fuck is what? Why is this guy so strong? And what's going through your head?
I was, and it's like,
or did you even think he was strong? Because I mean, you can't really tell, I guess, till like later on. But
well, you tell when they get to the hospital, and he's laying in the bed. But the first thing I'm like, okay, why is this? Probably, I'm guessing he's like late 50s, maybe early 60s. Why is this dude fucking running through the street? Like, who is he running from? Because you can't see anybody really actively pursuing him. So you get away from something, and then he goes to the fucking gas station manager, whatever he is, like, help me, they're coming to kill you. It's like, what the fuck?
Oh my god, yeah, no, I when I first saw it, like, I didn't know what the fuck I was just thinking, like, it's kind of hard to kind of like look back to think what I originally thought. But I remember seeing it, and I was like, what the fuck's going on here? You know what I mean? Because they kind of have like, well, I kind of figured that there were some kind of assassins. I think it was, and they are kind of assassins. But so he goes in there, he kills Ellie's dad, and before all that, I was laughing because like we kind of get a glimpse of how Tom Atkins is, his character in the film. Because like he's there with the nurse, and like they're like walking away and they're talking or whatever, and like he slaps her ass, and she's all like,
he's very Tom Selleck-ish. You notice that?
Because the mustache, dude, he's very Tom Atkins. You know, that's
Tom Atkins, but he's very Tom. You know, but not just because of the mustache, but like he's got a calm demeanor, but he has the right enough of emotion to kind of go after a problem, and he's charming with the women, and you know he's tall, and you know, and he's Dr. Dan Challis and that kind of thing.
Dan Challis, dude. Oh my God, we're talking about an over motherfucker. But yeah, he slaps the nurse's ass. Like I was just laughing because like some of the dialogue, it's like I play for keeps, and he's over there or whatever. But yeah, that assassin ends up going to the room and like breaking that fucker's nose, Ellie's dad's nose, and pushing his eyes in. I couldn't tell what the fuck, but you just see his nose kind of lifted a bit. And then she's like, "What are you doing in here?" And she freaks out. He runs to the car, and then he sets himself on fucking fire, dude. I was like, I remember seeing that, just thinking like, what the fuck, you know, like what the fuck's going on here? And then, of course, like in true '80s movie fashion, as soon as he lights himself on fire, the whole car explodes like 2 seconds later and shit. So I was like laughing, like.
And the Easter egg there is like for me, like I see that, and he's fucking like he's squeezing him and he's suffocating him and he's pressing in on his face, gouging in on his eyes and stuff. And then I see him, like, when he's done doing that, he's got, like, blood coming out of the side of his mouth, and he's got his face is, like, it looks like a fake plaster horror mask face. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, is the plot of this movie that they're doing, like, that one Twilight Zone episode where they're making fucking masks out of people's faces, like, doing a reverse of that? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, exactly. That's good shit.
And the movie starts off with fucking... The homeboy at the gas station is watching TV and they got Stonehenge on there. It then goes to commercial. 8 more days till Halloween.
We didn't even touch on that fucking over ass song. I'm glad you brought it up because there'll be times where we're talking about something and I'll be like, oh, you know, I wish we would have talked about that, you know, and then it'll be, you know, especially like for the series, but. Yeah, dude. So by the end of the movie, were you jamming out to that song? Because it was like they play it quite a few times, like throughout. Like I know when Tom's in the fucking in the bar, like it starts playing, he's like, change it, you know.
And let me just to answer the question, that song was in my head the entire fucking weekend and today.
And to the answer the question, no, Jeremy doesn't have a solo album. Yeah, no, fucking. There'll be times where like, you know, like this time, of course, like I didn't get it in my head and shit. But there's been some times where like, you know, like I'm pretty sure if I keep watching, because I want to watch it again, I enjoyed it that much. Well, after I watched part 4 and 5, dude, those abominations. Anyway, there's been times where like I've just repeatedly like dun 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 dun. You know how it starts off in Happy Halloween. Yeah, I was like Silver Shamrock. Yeah. You know, like I said, Tom Atkins, Dan Challis, Dr. Dan is in a bar, and Ellie walks in, and that's the old man in the beginning's daughter. What's his name? Harry Grimbridge's daughter, Ellie Grimbridge, and of course, she's like talking to Dan, and basically she wants to investigate why this guy killed her father and what's going on.
She's opened up her own investigation, asks the doctor what he knows that he's not saying.
Yes.
But remember, right before that happens, remember he asked him to change the channel. What, you got no Halloween spirit? And then they pop me. Tell him what popped me.
Well, what happened? Well, Halloween came out.
Yep.
Yeah, the Halloween. Yeah, yeah. I think they did like a commercial before that, right, or some bullshit. He's like, changed it, whatever. I think when they show up in the bar, like that's playing. I forgot when the order, but. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, it's fucking Halloween. Like, kind of like that meta, kind of like, oh, that's a movie inside the real life shit, which is Halloween 3. But yeah, she shows up in there. She wants to do her own investigation, and I think she calls him Papa or something like that. I don't know. But it's hilarious. Well, in the beginning, I know Dan meets up with his wife because he's like, I forgot whatever the fuck about the. Oh, he goes there to bring a mask, and it's the girl from part three from part one. Annie, I think her name is. She's in part one, and she gets killed, and then she's in part two. When they're showing the cop, the sheriff, like, that she had died or whatever the fuck. So she actually came out on the first three films, which was cool. And or was it Linda? I think her name was not Annie, Linda.
That's the one at the beginning of the second one, right?
Yeah, her name's isn't it Annie? Okay, yeah, her name's Linda Challis in this one. But yeah, she's Annie in the first two. But so I thought that was cool. But yeah, she's the one that gets choked out in the car in part one or some shit like that. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, obviously Tom Atkins has a fine ass ex-wife, and then and he's like in his 40s and all that bullshit. But anyway, the funny thing is that like she's telling him like, I can't, I want to go ahead and go to Santa Mia or something, whatever the fuck, Myra bullshit in California.
Santa Mira.
Yeah, and so of course, I forgot how like you could tell like. Dan Challis is just like all about it. He's like, well, I gotta go with you or whatever. Like he goes with her. I forgot how they end up going.
And he goes to the fucking payphone. This just shows you how pre-modern this is. Like, first of all, no one's got fucking. He didn't even have that brick cell phone. He had to go to a fucking payphone to call his wife.
Yeah.
Tell him he couldn't watch the fucking kids that weekend because some business came up, like you said. And it's like, you don't expect this. There's nothing wrong with drinking beer, but you don't expect to see a doctor walking around holding a 6-pack and then walk into a car.
Yeah, I started like that's like the perfect 80s, like that's the way it is. And but of course I noticed it. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how many people pay attention to shit like this, but Ellie was driving the old Oldsmobile Cutlass, dude, or some shit like that, or Oldsmobile Cutlass, and like my dad had an Oldsmobile, dude, or not a Cutlass, an Oldsmobile. Was it Cutlass, an Oldsmobile, whatever the fuck? But yeah,
I think it was a Cutlass Supreme. My aunt and my grandma in the late 80s both had that car.
Yeah, my dad had one growing up, and it blew up. So I was like, oh, it looks like my dad's car. So anyway, but yeah, like it just reminds you of like typical 80s road trip. Like, oh, let me go get a 6-pack of beer. Let's get off the road. And I was fucking laughing because I really didn't realize. I didn't realize like how often he says it, but I was listening to a podcast about it the other day, and the guys are like, "It's getting late. I'm gonna have a beer." Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm getting ready for bed. It's getting late. Let me have a beer. I'm like, hell, Dan Challis, dude.
Not let me have a warm glass of milk or let me have some chamomile tea or some shit to relax. No, I'm going to have a beer.
Yeah, it's like, it's getting late. I'm going to have a beer. It's like, it's good night, cup of Joe, whatever the fuck, right? A good old glass of warm milk. So I'll fucking...
You ever hear the Stone Cold podcast with Nash as the guest on it? And they were talking about when they were in WCW together. They used to ride together, and they would go into a fucking convenience store, get a 12-pack of beer, and they'd be fucking driving, going like ridiculously fast, drinking beer down the highway to the next town.
Oh shit, no shit. That's fucking hilarious. I gotta check that out. Anything with Nash, he's gonna tell you a story. Yeah, the kid. But yeah, I started laughing. They go to a hotel, and like the owner for the hotel, he's like definitely like in on the shenanigans because he's there like talking to, and he's like got like an Irish accent in or whatever, and so they all check in there, and like Dan meets some people that are buying masks from the Silver Shamrock factory. They said it was like a milk factory. I think it was a milk factory from what I read about it, the actual one they went into. Yeah, so they go there, and did you know that chick? The one that gets her fucking face blown off is actually Tom Atkins' wife, Marge Gutman. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, but that Marge Gutman who accidentally offsets that device. Yeah.
Yeah, she's she was Tom Atkins' wife, and I was like, really? Like Tom was with that old hag? I started laughing because because I couldn't believe it. Not that she's like gross or anything, but like Tom is with Ellie, dude. Tom is with Annie. You know, what the fuck's he doing with Marge Gutman? You know, but we meet everyone there, and then we meet the fucking National Lampoon's Vacation kind of family. You know, with the bike that damn near kills him and all that bullshit. But I start everything in
I
that.
like the history. Okay.
No, go ahead, dude.
I like the history that they give of the town. Like, you know, they tell a story about that town and how it got to be the way it is and everything. Like, it's, you know, founded by Irish community, and more Irish immigrants kept going to that town. And then Mr. Connell came in and built this factory and built this badass company that pretty much employs the whole town. And now it's the #1 Halloween mask company in all America, and, you know, that kind of shit. It's just kind of interesting. And it's that goody two-shoes type of town. And you even got this fucking intercoms all over town telling people it's time for curfew at 6 p.m. And did you know, I bet you do know this, did you know who the voice of that intercom is?
Oh, maybe Jamie Lee Curtis?
I did not know that until today, and I gotta tell you, like, that popped me because, like, they're using people from the previous ones.
I love it.
Further, yeah.
No, exactly, because I was actually like, I talk amongst my you know, about myself when I say, like, oh, what am I gonna talk about when we do these shows or whatever. And one of them was like, wow, like I said earlier, I didn't know Annie was in the first 3, you know, because she's well, not Annie, whatever her name is, but she's Annie in the first 2, and now she's Linda in this one. I was like, wow, I didn't know she was in 3 of them. And then, of course, me, dumbass, I'm like, oh, well, Jamie Lee Curtis is in 1 and 2, and then she's you know, not in the film, but her voice is, she's actually did the part for the film when she did that. So I'm like, well, yeah, she's in this film too. So I didn't even think about it till like after the fact. I'm like, because when I first heard it, I had no idea. Like, I remember that part like way back when, like I said, when I saw it. But of course, when you go and look at the facts and all this, the inside and stuff, and then you're like, what? She's the voice for that? Because that's something you probably, if you didn't know or listen for, you probably wouldn't know that. But now when I watch it, I always laugh because I'm like, oh yeah, it's definitely Jamie Lee Curtis. You know what I mean? Once you have that insight on it, it's easy to kind of to be on the lookout and listen to it, and it's very distinct, her voice and shit. It kind of reminds me of when we go to like Walmarts nowadays with this whole COVID bullshit, right? When they have like, please wear your mask, and also forget to, you know, tip your bartenders. And they're like, it's just like we're a bunch of robots ourselves. But yeah, they go into the town, and everyone's kind of looking at them. I mean, at least for me, like when I saw that, I was like, oh, the town's definitely in on it. Did you have any kind of like any of that feeling?
I did actually have that suspicion. It's just because they're all looking through their window, looking at them like they're outsiders. It's all they might as well have just walked into an Amish town, or they might as well have walked into some, you know,
Compton, dog. They're only white people in a fucking black neighborhood.
Exactly. I mean, fuck. They I mean, they stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of the whole Silver Shamrock, we have it's Colonel Cochran, the old man. He actually comes out in RoboCop. So like he is very, 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 very distinct voice. And Dan O'Leary, I guess he is Irish, huh?
Yeah, it's Dan, yeah, O'Harry or something like
that.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm like, he has to be, because he does have he has like an accent, you know, like when he talks. I don't even think he has a name in RoboCop, but I think they call him the old man, like the old man. You know, he's the president of OCP. So I always knew him because of that. So he plays like a good guy in it, and then for him to be like a bad guy, but he's also like the head honcho here. Like it was just perfect. Like, oh, okay, it makes sense. You know, he is a bad guy because you really don't know too much about him in RoboCop. But it was strange to have a film like Halloween. Like I like the film, right? But it's like it's so strange to have a slasher film, and the bad guy, you know, the head honcho is an old man that's just like got this James Bond like, it's like a James Bond movie, like I said, James Bond like plan where like he's not really a threat, he just has a bunch of robots helping him. It's so strange.
but you know, homeboy playing Colonel Cochran, he could if he looked a little younger at that time, he could just as soon have been the hero in a James Bond type of movie.
Yeah, for sure. So they go there because they're gonna try and like, I don't know what their intentions were besides we're gonna investigate the town or the factory, but luckily they kind of, you know, make good with everyone else that's there at the same motel, and that's when Marge, she like one of the little chips falls off of the the mask. And then she takes off her hair clip and she starts fucking with it, and that laser just like blasts her fucking teeth or mouth wide open, and then you see bugs fly out of there, dude. Like I don't really like feel sorry for people when they die in these films or whatever. You just kind of see it and you're like, oh, that was cool or whatever. But when that bitch got that shit blown out of her fucking mouth, I was like, man, that must be some of the most worst pain of all time. The effects, the way it made it look, and her like mouth, just like, wow, you know what I mean?
And I mean, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it wasn't like a huge. I know this sounds dicked up, but it wasn't like a huge heartache when you saw her die, because you're saying to yourself, I mean, what the fuck, dude? What are you doing fucking with that device at the beginning? You don't know what it is. You're in a strange town. Everyone comes off as fucking weirdos. Like, just go there, get your shit, and go. Like, it's like, what are you doing? But the other thing too is like, yeah, the effects. That's in that post. You know, Star Wars is kind of the ones that got those kind of laser looking effects going in movies, and here we are. 5 years after that first one. It's just. But
who
later
the fuck?
on though.
Who the fuck starts picking at fucking gimmicks? Where she's like, I'm like, why is she poking at that fucking, like, what do you think? Like, cause people were like, really, like, I know that it's like a microchip kind of thing or whatever, but like, why would you just start poking the fuck out of something like that? Like, she, like, you know what I mean? Like, I just thought it was kind of weird and like.
And yeah, it could just, you don't know what it is, and you're in a fucking strange town, and you get a bad vibe about everything. Just go there and get your shit. I probably wouldn't even stay in a motel that night. I'd probably just go right to the factory, get my order, and fucking leave.
Well, that was her thing. She was saying like, oh, well, that made me stay another day, and like whatever the fuck. Something was going on.
Right.
Yeah, because I remember her saying that. But anyway, they all end up going to the factory with the I think his name is Buddy.
Yeah,
Kupfer.
Buddy Kupfer.
Yeah, him and his wife and the annoying kids, like I said. And so they go there, and he's like, can my friends come? And I started laughing. He's like, oh, yes, I was just going to invite them, actually. Doing that
dude is like the epitome. He's like the stereotype of the pushy sales, because, like, we later find out he's like the number...
the stereotype of the... He is. He's great.
Yeah, he is great. I mean, we later find out that he's the number one sales guy of the fucking, masks and all that shit, and for the company for years. And we later, he walks up to Dan Challis or Dr. Challis, and he doesn't even hold his hand out for him to decide to shake it. He just grabs his hand and starts shaking his hand.
I didn't notice that, but I was laughing that, yeah, like, because like as soon as he shows up, but you can't help but not like him, but. He's so nice that you just kind of let him do his thing, you know what I mean? Because he's so nice to you, and he's pushy, but he's just being nice to you the whole time. So you're like, all right, let him have the fucking 12-pound sandwich. He's a nice guy, dude. Leave him alone. That kind of deal. Like, yeah, it's like the pushy. So you'd be the perfect salesman, dude. But yeah, I was laughing because he like gets like, and I didn't really realize it till you started talking about it like that. But yeah, it's like. Like they have him, as such that he's the best salesman for all the masks, and then they present him in a way where, like, yeah, you see all those attributes and traits that, yeah, you could see how this guy, gets what he wants just by being him, and you could see why he's over like a son of a bitch.
And I had heard his name before in other things, but that's Ralph Straight who plays that character. And he died literally like a few months before I turned 10. I don't remember what he died of. But he was in 92 is when he died, and he was 56.
He looks very familiar. You always say, like, oh, I've seen him before. Like, he was a guy that he looked very, very familiar, but I didn't see him. I mean, I know he came out on Beastmaster, but I never, like, I don't remember him in Beastmaster. But I was like, he looks so familiar. He probably looks like another actor I'm thinking about. But yeah, he just has that very recognizable face. So they're in the factory and they're going about everything, and it's funny because like so there's those subtle, not subtle, but well, almost subtle, but unless you know what the movie's outcome's gonna be, but you have that feeling like some shit's up. And Dan's there with Ellie, and they're kind of going with in the factory. Oh, before all that, actually, before I jump ahead, it's pretty funny. Like they're at the factory, but that same night, I think it's the same night where Marge gets killed. There's like an old man, and he asks for like a swig of Tom Atkins, whatever the fuck, right? He's like, I don't got no diseases or whatever the fuck. And then he starts talking, and like that guy's so like he's got a small role. He's only in the film for like 3 or 4 minutes, but he's like so like he's hey Cochran, fuck you, whatever the fuck.
Yeah,
fuck
he's
you,
like
Cochran.
Crazy Ralph to the third power.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then they fucking like I the only reason I bring him up is not because he's a bum and like he's like real quick, but it's like his death scene so fucking brutal, dude. Those like those fucking robots. So in case y'all don't know, they're fucking robots. So they show up and like he's like, oh no, Mr. Cochran, I was just I forgot what he says, but they put him on his knees. I started laughing because they show the silhouettes of the two guys standing up, and he's on his knees. And I'm like, that looks pretty gay. And one of the guys like holding him down, and the other guy just grabs him by his neck and head and like rips his head off, and then you just see the blood shooting out. And I was like, fuck, dude, that's fucked. Yeah, it was that's fucked. No. Fucking brutal ass scene. But yeah, they're back at the factory after all that, and
fucking Conal Cochran's, he has to, greet his best salesman, and that's where you find out he was his best salesman. But then he also goes to Mr. Smith. I'm doing finger in the air quotation marks Smith. Oh, Smith, of course, And he's all, I apologize for your order, and we will be replacing it on my behalf.
Oh yeah. He's like, everyone starts clapping, dude, throwing a parade at Hemisphere Plaza and all that bullshit. But they give one of the guys the best salesman's kid asks for him. Can I have a mask? He's like, yes, but not this one. It's not gone through final processing, And he's like, what's final processing? He's like, oh, trade secret. And everyone's kind of. And then the salesman guy, he's like, well, come on, just for your. And then Tom tells him like, oh, well, what about for your best salesman? He's like, oh, he starts talking about, like all the chemicals or whatever. So we know.
Delicate, sensitive chemicals.
Yeah, and I started laughing. I'm like, okay, whatever. And that's when they kind of like, okay, well, now we know where to look, or like, because they're going to break in there later on or whatever the fuck is what they're planning.
Dude, you know what came to mind is right when like literally just now 2 seconds ago came to mind with the final process and that. Did you ever watch those videos of that supposedly he's an ex-Illuminati member, John Todd?
No, I've never seen that shit.
Okay, and he's a fucking liar. He got so exposed left, right, and sideways. But it was interesting listening anyway. But he said that like the Illuminati completely controlled the fucking music industry, the record industry, whatever, which is true. But it's like, but he was saying this bullshit like, yeah, so they have this circle of witches that they cast spells on every record before it gets released to the general public. Like, yeah, that's probably the type of bullshit that was going on in this fucking final process. They have their fucking witches putting evil spells on these fucking
That's what they call it, Season of the Witch.
There you go.
So, what's it called? All that bullshit happens, and as they're walking out, I was telling you, I was like, I liked because they're giving you subtle hints that's obvious. I mean, we know something's wrong, but what is it? And they see Ellie's dad's like green Volkswagen or whatever, the station wagon.
Yes.
And
thank you.
Yeah, I was like, and I see, and he's there, she's there, like Papa's car or whatever. And then she runs up to it. He's like, Ellie, wait, And then all the robots just stand there or whatever. And like Colonel Cochran's like telling the salesman's family, like, oh, just gotta be very careful about our secrets, whatever. Try to play it off, but like, of course, like everyone knows the gig, but. I don't know if it's not after that, but it's right around the same time because I don't remember if they go back to the hotel or what. But all I know is that same family, they get put into a room like a bunch of fucking Buddy and the rest of the fucking cup for whatever family are there, and that's when that TV starts playing.
That's exactly what it is. They wanted to. It's accommodations for the family of their number one salesman, and of course. They
accommodations.
Their number one salesman. It's like remember that story I was telling you about a couple weeks ago? Like we had to read it in senior year of high school, and it was like these people died and they didn't go to heaven, they didn't go to hell. They're in this room and they can't leave this room. And there's these bright lights on in this room, and they don't have eyelids, so they can't close their eyes. And the only time they ever leave that room is when someone that's still alive mentions them. And that's what I've thought of with that, is that fucking room. Like, she opens up the curtains, and it's fucking concrete wall. And then, the fucking, the android security guard that hands them, like, some paper or whatever. And that's the guy I was talking about. And forgive me for saying it, but he was him and Dick Warlock. I don't know why it is, but, like, here they are in 82 playing security for a company in a movie. And then 13 years later, they're fucking working with De Niro in Casino playing security guards again.
So, yeah, Dick Warlock, who played Michael Myers in Part 2, he's one of the robots in this film, right?
He is. He's one of the robots that fucking doesn't get destroyed, that fucking doesn't get killed off, doesn't kill himself in a fucking car, and doesn't, who was it that he squeezed to death? Like, he strangled fucking... Was it Dr. Challis?
Well, Dr. Challis lives.
He lives, but he didn't strangle him to death, but he's... I know someone's choking him out at some point, yeah. No, but Ellie's the one... I don't know if Challis ever gets up with... I mean, I know there's, like, towards the end, the very end, he might run into that guy, because I know a lot of bullshit happens, like... How do they catch Ellie? Do you remember how they catch Ellie? I just remember, like, you know what it was? I think they were at the hotel. That's what it was. So they ended up going back to the hotel, Dan and Ellie, and Dan goes to do something at the hotel. I forgot exactly what it was, but he goes back to the room. Because I remember getting mad, like, why? Like, these people are on your tail, and you're gonna split up. But yeah, that's when they kidnap Ellie from the hotel, and so the weird thing is that she ends up being a robot. Fast forward like 15-20 minutes after that. Now the thing is that they say, like, well, was she a robot the whole film or only when they captured her? Like, because you read my mind, because I was thinking that as soon as I was like, when she starts fucking with them, I'm like, so was she just a programmed android the whole time? And then, of course, the next thought that goes to my mind is, does that mean he was banging an android?
Yeah, I'm like, because I'm so confused, because Colonel Cochran's, like, again, we're kind of jumping around towards the end because a lot of shit happens. We're not going to go, scene by fucking scene. We could talk all about it all, but we're not going to do it in order. But, like, he tells them, like, when he captures Dan and he has him tied up, puts the mask on him, and he's giving him the whole James Bond bad guy gimmick. He's all like, they could do everything but talk. But then I could have sworn, I mean, like, multiple androids, they do talk. Like, one says like misfire when he's shooting or something like that. Or it's just like, I'm like, well, he says that, but I don't know if he's just saying that just to say it, or
Misfire was one of the lab coat technicians, so I don't know if the lab coat technicians.
That's what I was thinking too. Is like, are they robots? Because I know the guys that wear the suits are robots for sure. But well, you might be right, because the lab coat guys, those are the ones that they pull out Marge. They're like, Misfire. They start talking about how they're taking Miss Gutman to the best facilities in here in whatever Santa Maria. But so I'm like really confused, but I didn't think Ellie, because when you're looking for it, if you've seen it like a second time, once he finds Ellie, like, you notice that she doesn't talk,
Right.
And you're like, for somebody that's so animated and all of a sudden doesn't, then like, okay, so I think it's that. But it's just weird that she would like let him do all the stuff that he did after he found her if she was a robot, because like, he grabs all those, whatever they are, like those little chips, throws them all over the lab coat guys and the James Bond villains, and Stonehenge fucking starts going crazy when the music starts playing. And the crazy, like, it was so cool, because I guess I really didn't pay attention the first time, but the other time, or this time I saw it, is when like Stonehenge has that whole, like, again, laser bullshit, and it turns the old man Colonel Cochran into a fucking like, he just turns like white, but it's like he's like in another dimension or something.
He looks transparent or some shit. His facial features change and everything. And like that right there was when I saw that laser circling like that at that, you know, inside Stonehenge thing. I'm like, that. The thought that came to my mind when I saw that was Repo Man. Have you seen Repo Man?
I have, but I don't remember that shit.
Like when the car fucking disappears, like blue lasers, fucking space aliens take it, wherever the fuck happens. But like it was like I was saying to myself, here's that fucking, and I'm not knocking it, I'm just saying it was the best they had at that time. But here I'm like, here's that fucking cheesy early to mid '80s fucking, you know, CGI or whatever you would have called it back then, with the fucking blue lasers and shit. Like that's what I was thinking to myself, because that's what it looked like. And you know, it's worthy scene, and I'm glad, you know, it was a baby face, you know, saving everybody by dropping all those badges down there and everything. But yeah, you forget, like with Ellie, you forget, you know, that she's not talking, she's not saying anything because you're so lost in the escape.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the first time, like I said, you don't pay attention, you really don't think about it, but like me, I was actively like, okay, when he finds her, like, how was she acting again the second time? And like, yeah, I just noticed it. I was like, man, she's not saying anything. Like, you could tell, like, he's telling her to do this and do that, and she's just doing it. It was just kind of weird. But I think
I don't subscribe to the theory of her being an android the whole time. I agree with some of the other pages that are out there about it. Like, you know, they killed her and then replaced her with an android and duped him into thinking he was saving her.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I believe, because I'm like, nah, no way. After looking at it all, they're like, why would she be an android the whole time and like have him go over there and like start all this trouble? Like, it doesn't make any sense that, like, oh, because of her, you know, he actually went over there and like tried to investigate, when if she didn't, he would have just been like, oh, I mean, I don't know what really happened, but oh well. And speaking of that, there's like a nurse throughout the film that's like going through the samples. She's like, oh, there's, you know, someone accidentally mixed up the envelopes and this and that for the first android blowing himself up in the car. And by the end of it, like, she's like, all I'm finding is like parts through this thing, like, you know, like, and I was like, oh shit, like, that's badass, right? And that motherfucker, one of the androids shows up with a drill, and he like drills her in the fucking floor. Yeah. And I was like, oh, so much for that hospital security, man. It's like anybody can just walk into these labs.
Oh, and I mean, you know, that's the thing. Like I didn't, that got lost on me the first time I watched it. Again, it was, you know, late Friday afternoon, et cetera, et cetera. But when I watched it again, I like, first of all, I paid more attention to the fact that a fucking android killed the dad and then blew himself up in a car. That's number one. And number two, like, I was able to follow the connection of that crime scene, or not crime scene, but, you know, death scene, versus like that autopsy things get brought into her, and she's like, wait a minute, there's no body parts here, it's parts.
Yeah. No, yeah, if you like, because you're like, I don't know where it's going. Like, if you miss a part like that, of course you're not going to be like, well, why do we give a fuck? Because you're like, we don't care. So, but once you like, it's a film where you do have to pay attention to details. So if you miss, the guy blowing himself up, the nurse doing this, and you're like, you're gonna be kind of checked out of it. But towards the end, of course, like they blow up everything, and Dan's driving away with Ellie, and all of a sudden she attacks him, and then he crashes the vehicle and he beats her up with the tire iron or whatever, and he arrives at the same gas station that Harry Grimbridge. Speaking of Grimbridge, dude, my favorite scene before I forget it is like when they're there, they show up at the hotel, right? We talked about it when they show up at the hotel, and he's talking to Ellie, and he's all like, well, maybe I should go ahead and order another room so you won't be uncomfortable. And she's just like, well, that'll cause suspicion. Well, I can go ahead and just sleep in the car then. And she's like, where do you want to sleep, Dr. Challis? I pop, dude. And he's all like, that's a real stupid question, Mrs. Grimbridge.
Maybe I ought to get another room.
That would look sort of suspicious, wouldn't it?
What I mean is, if you'd feel more comfortable, I could sleep in the car. Be better in this floor anyway.
Where do you want to sleep, Dr. Challis?
That's a dumb question, Miss Grimbridge.
Nice to go ahead and double down on the fucking on that shit because like exactly he has like a little pause. Hey, that's a real dumb question, Mrs. Grimbridge. You know, and then he just fuck it. It's the weekend. He just goes in for a kiss because he's kind of like, of course, like he's kind of like hoping for the best, and he knows he's a pimp. It's Tom Atkins in a fucking horror movie, right? And yeah, they start making like we forgot about it or we didn't talk about it, but like. They get pretty hardcore. Like he's there on the bed with her, and he pulls out a titty. We don't get to see the nipple, but we just see him like doing. I'm like, man, dude, Tom Atkins got himself over on this filming, and his wife's on the set. I'm sure he's like, But yeah, him and Ellie get over, and then also too that same night when they're there, like that. It's getting late. I'm gonna have a beer. They're there in bed like after they fucking shit. And then he's like, she does something to him. I forgot the exact shit, but he's all like, again, aren't you a little tired? And she's all like, and she says something or whatever. And he's like, all right, fuck it, But I was just like laughing.
I know what you're talking about. I remember that.
Yeah, I was like, it's so fucking badass, dude. It's like, yeah, dude. Like I remember. I mean, of course, because Ellie in real life she's like 23, but she's supposed to play like she's 20. And then I think Tom probably in the film was in his 40s, 45ish or whatever.
Okay. I looked it up. He is actually almost exactly 10 years older than my dad, and Tom Atkins is next month is going to turn 85. So
fuck.
You got to figure 38 years ago he would have been what, 47?
Yeah, okay, yeah, sounds about. I was just guessing about 45, so 47, and then Ellie in real life was like I think like 23, 24ish because it came out in 82, but these are usually filmed a few months or even a year before, so just depends.
And didn't he say? Yeah, that's true. And didn't he say to her when they're in bed? Like, how old are you again?
Yeah, that dude exactly. I was like, why is he gonna he's gonna wait till all this shit happens, go with her, stay with a hotel with her, fuck her, and then she wants to do it again for a second. How old are you again? Yeah, I was like, what? Come on, now you're gonna ask her how old she is, Tom? You already banged her. What the fuck, Or he might do it. He might ask right before he's gonna bang her. I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was like fucking hilarious. Tom Atkins at his best. Fucking Dan Challis. So he ends up going back to that gas station, like I had said, that was in the beginning of the film. And I thought it was kind of cool that they kind of, but someone mentioned they're like, how far is that gas station from fucking where he's from? If like he just stumbled out of fucking Santa Mira or whatever, and you know what I mean? And then I had heard somewhere they're like, oh well. Where he's from, Dan Challis is the closest hospital there, and that's the reason why. And that gas station was just outside of.
It's like that's the gas station you come across when if you're coming back from Santa Mira to where they're from. That's the gas station you first see, and you're almost home. Yeah.
So that's all. I was like, okay, I accept that. So they end up going back, and that's when he makes a phone call. And I think he calls like the station or whatever, a television station.
He does.
Yeah, or you know what no, he doesn't even drive to the gas. He doesn't leave the gas station. He makes the phone call at the gas station,
at the
right?
Station.
Yeah,
he calls them.
Yeah, that's what he does. And that's when he's like, you got to take it off. No, I can't prove it, and all that stuff. And you're like, come on, just listen to fucking Dan Challis, and he's over there. He's like, okay, you still have it on one station. So I mean, there was only like a few stations back then. I'm assuming, especially in '82, because I mean, even me growing up in the early '90s, like I knew there wasn't that many fucking channels. So I can only imagine.
I can tell you this just from what I know. In '82, like cable TV did not become a widespread thing across the country until about '84. So in '82, most people were still just having ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS.
So it's like 4 channels basically almost, huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, he was like talking about the 3 channels. And he's like, no, you still got it on one channel because I guess they were showing it on every channel. So basically, I mean, you had told me about it, and I really didn't even know about it because I mean, I for whatever reason, I've never sat there and listened to the whole reason why Colonel Cochran or the whole Stonehenge thing. So basically, He steals one of the rocks from Stonehenge. And like I started laughing. He's like, "You wouldn't believe the trouble we had getting it here." And I was like, but you had mentioned something like, what explanation or what's the thing about witches or the universe and the planets aligning, whatever the fuck, that he's doing this and there's a sacrifice. I know you had mentioned it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's why he's doing all this." Okay, you know. Can you recite?
That was the thing. Yeah, I can, and it's I actually have the recording. I can't quote it off the top of my head, but if you want me to play the recording, I can.
Go ahead, man.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Halloween. The Festival of Samhain. The last great one took place 3,000 years ago, and the hills ran red with the blood of animals and children. Sacrifices. A part of our world, our craft, witchcraft. To us, it was a way of controlling our environment. It's not so different now. It's time again. In the end, we don't decide these things, you know. The planets do. They're in alignment, and it's time again. The world's going to change tonight, Doctor. I'm glad you'll be able to watch it. And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. So they do play some of that Halloween. I love that. Dun, 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 dun. I love that fucking Halloween 1 music.
Harkens back to the old, yep.
Yeah, so, you know, badass fucking film. I really enjoy it. But the ending, did you pop for it? Because he's like, stop, turn it off, stop it, stop it, turn it off, stop it. Stop it!
I know that he reminds you of.
Stop it! And like, I love it, dude. Like, it just like, it just has that John Carpenter soundtrack. It's a really cool soundtrack. Trippy as fuck. It's so relaxing and shit. I love John Carpenter's music, but dude, I mean, I know you said the first time you were like, okay, I liked it, but you didn't really understand it the second time. I mean, it sounds like you're a fucking Tom Atkins fan now, dude.
I like him, but the first time is when, like, I mean, the first time that scene that I just played is what I needed. Like, I was waiting for that, and that, like, made it so clear. It's like Irish, you know, holiday festival. It's like he's hearkening back to a pagan era, pre-St. Patrick Irish fucking festival, fucking spirituality, and he's, like, playing into that because now this year the planets are aligned, so we gotta fucking kill all these kids as a child sacrifice. It's some Illuminati blood sacrifice bullshit right there. Mm-hmm. But you know, that it made sense. It made it understand, like, why. Okay, because you're watching the movie. If you're brand new to it, even if you're not mad about the whole Michael Myers not being there and all that shit, you're just watching this and you're like, okay, why the fuck are they advertising the fuck out of these kids' Halloween masks? That's number one. Mm-hmm. And then number two, okay, so they're going to this small town. There's this factory where these kids' Halloween masks are made, and this old man got killed, and we don't know exactly by who and exactly why, and da-da-da-da. And, you know, this brings everything together and makes it all make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The whole journey for me was exciting, but when he said that, I was like, okay, this is why he's doing things now. We didn't talk about the mask, but they got the witch, they got the pumpkin, they got the skeleton. Dude, which one are you picking, dude? Or what's your favorite? Not even picking, but what's your favorite one? Because I know I like the witch, I guess, because they really don't show it that much, and it stands out so much more than the other ones. I don't know.
I'm probably, just for me, if what I'm going to wear, I'm probably going to wear the pumpkin. You
pumpkin piece of shit, because you like pumpkin pie. You like pumpkin pie or no?
I don't. I actually pecan pie guy.
I'm pecan pie. The old carom pecan with chocolate drizzle, dude. Talk about a squirt fest, dude.
Oh hell yeah.
But so this is the only film that doesn't feature Michael Myers. Talked about that, but the next film we're going to be doing is Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers. So Michael will return. Like we mentioned last time, that we're going to be trying. I don't know how close we're going to get. I'm pretty sure we'll get to at least part 8 to like Resurrection-ish. It just depends. By the end of the month, we'll try and squeeze them in as often as we can. We were going to do this earlier, but of course shit happens and all that. But we're already on part 3. Today's October 5th. I'm trying to upload these, edit these, try to get these as quick as possible. Also, for those of you, Gabriel Rodriguez did our artwork for this, so I got to give him a shout out every podcast that I can for doing our artwork. It's ManBeast01 on Instagram. Make sure you fucking check him out. Don Coscarelli from Phantasm Director follows him. You're going to hear me say that every fucking podcast that I can remember to, just to go ahead and be, let his work be known and help him out, because he definitely helped us out. But Halloween 3, dude, Season of the Witch, I'll give you my rating. I gotta say, dude, out of 10, I fucking love this film, and I don't expect you to follow suit, whatever you think, dude, but for me, it's like a 10 out of 10. I just love this film. It's a fun horror film. It's one of those films that, like, you could just put it, like, it's those films where you could just put on, like Casino, you were talking about, and you don't even have to watch it, you just enjoy it. It's like the same thing with this, and it's all because of Dan Challis, dude, Dr. Challis, dude. What do you give this bad boy?
Oh, I mean, I'm not a 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even a 9.5. I'm probably not even a 9, but I would definitely say it's a solid 8, and it's definitely a movie like in the future.
Yeah.
When I want to watch a scary movie with somebody, or if it's Halloween time, whatever, want to watch a scary movie, this will definitely be on my list.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's one of those ones where like it has to be at least a yearly watch, like you said, like someone's ever like I have to watch it like during Halloween, of course. 'Cause like out of all the Halloween films, I'm gonna watch part 1 and then this one. Like I'm gonna skip part 2, not to go to, but we'll go through the other ones and hopefully that we can maybe find some good in it. I can't wait to talk about it because I haven't seen these films literally since I was a kid. Part 4, 5, 6. I haven't even seen part 5 and 6 in full just because they didn't catch my attention growing up. But anyway, guys, any other final thoughts on Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, Jay?
No, I mean, just honestly, good movie, good solid effort. I enjoyed it. I will watch it again in the future in years to come. And last thing is, even though there's no Michael Myers in it, I like that they tied it in by recycling actors from the prior ones. And I like the going deeper on Sawan, as he called it. We call it Sam Hain, but in true Gaelic, it's Sawan.
John Crow. Sam Crow.
And, Sam Crow, this charter, man.
This charter.
But, and it's just like they touched on it in part 2, but they gave no explanation on it at all. But now it's like they're going deeper into it with something here. So I know they're probably their attempt in this was to be the origins, the original fucking what was it? Are You Afraid of the Dark or some shit like that?
Oh yeah, you had said something like that the other day. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, they ended up going right back to Michael Myers. That's okay though. I mean, this is still a good movie, and the Michael Myers shit is good too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they should have done the anthology, kind of the anthology style that they were planning on doing. That was John Carpenter's idea because he had decided to go ahead and do this shit only if it didn't involve Michael Myers, and so he did it. And Tommy Lee Wallace, director, didn't mention him, but he did. He's actually the director of films we are going to talk about: Fright Night 2, which I fucking love, and also the It series. They call it like TV series, but I call it the movie. But yeah, Tommy Lee Wallace, badass director. All right, guys, so Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're enjoying your October Halloween 2020 bullshit. Whenever you're listening to this, it's always fun to listen to horror movies during the Halloween season, even if it's not. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see your asses on the next one.
Don't forget to check us out on Spotify now.
Spotify. Peace.
Dark masks, gather round your TV set, put on your masks, and watch. All witches, all skeletons, all jack-o'-lanterns.
The third
gather
commercial,
round
it's
and
still on,
watch.
please.
Watch
Take
the
off the
magic
third
out
channel,
there.
the third channel, it's still running.
Watch.
Stop it, please, for God's sake, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to, please, stop it now, turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.